quality higher education has usually been synonymous with the sciences, with engineering, medicine, institutions like the IITs or IIMs. Liberal arts and humanities have never really been part of the dominant discourse. In the last 5 years, though, private universities professing a philanthropic model of education say they want to revolutionize liberal arts education in India by bringing the best in teaching and opportunities for the students. In India Matters this week, we look at the role of such universities by drawing on the experiences of two based around Delhi and look at the debates they have stirred in higher education.
That you see here, I rescued half from the
Shakespeare brought to life by students of the English department at Ashoka University.
which me thought did promise most. Away!
Shakespeare was supposed to be like this high and mighty name floating in English literature, and none of us really had the capacity to fully understand him. But what Professor Gill does is that he makes it very relatable. So one of his favorite quips is how, had Shakespeare been alive today, he would have been this writer for Bollywood.
A class on Abhinay at Shivnadar University.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Dance as an academic discipline doesn't exist in this country. So I think we are positioned very well to kind of make that beginning.
I enrolled in SNU for the Electronics and Communication program, and then we got to know about doing minor. Since I had a dance background already, so I took up dance to finish my minor in that.
I found a picture on a blank wall once. The wall was silent. One of the things that we do is use one line and repeat it 15 times. What happens in that 15 times? How does an artist, how does a student begin to create material out of what exists? What is the kind of thinking that goes into it? So the Abhinay class not only uses technique of dancing, but also uses comparative literature studies or critical analysis to begin to look at how do you read a poem, then how do you put it into movement.
This is a class in the Fine Arts department, also at SNU.
It's a curriculum that is set up by practicing artists and taught by practicing artists. Also have a lot of visiting artists and curators, not only from India but from abroad as well, who come and interact with students on a regular basis.
Images of university classrooms that reflect a different way of teaching and learning. Images that come from two private universities near Delhi, Shivnadar and Ashoka. Both profess a philanthropic model of education. Business tycoon Shivnadar started his university 4 years ago, and Ashoka was founded by like-minded individuals. Before it started its university, Ashoka began with the India Fellowships, a one-year program offered to students after they complete their undergrad in any field from any college anywhere in the country, and gave them an introduction to a range of subjects from the humanities to environment, with the best academics and prominent public intellectuals as lecturers.
This is one platform where you can get like so many perspectives about say psychology, sociology, literature, which is not something I got in my engineering things.
Shivnadar University was set up as a private university in 2011. So it's about 4 years back. And it is a research-led, student-centric, multidisciplinary university.
We must live in this world of globalization.
In India's history of higher education, this emphasis on liberal arts by private players is relatively new and comes from a greater exposure to the more broad-based interdisciplinary systems of American academia, giving rise to a concern that the new universities may end up aping US models.
In the undergraduate program of Ashoka, we, I think, are the first institution around the world who in the liberal arts 4-year a 3-year education context, have taken one whole semester and devoted it to what we call the Ashoka Quest. And the Ashoka Quest is a structured internship for our undergraduate students to go and live and work in a grassroots organization.
I always knew that I wanted to study literature. I never had exposure to things like political science, sociology, some exposure to history, and I really wanted to study all of that. So I was looking at liberal arts colleges in the US. That was my first plan. It's very expensive, really far from home, and this thing came up and it just seemed to fit every box that I needed.
Animated students in an atmosphere which has the energy of new institutions in the making, attractive for students and for faculty. Highly qualified professors trained abroad or well-known names in India's academic world are increasingly being drawn to these private universities. After 24 years of teaching in the West, Jonathan Gill, a popular teacher, is now professor and dean at Ashoka.
We're not offering the courses as repositories of knowledge that have to be passed on to students who will regurgitate that knowledge come exam time. What we're trying to do is inculcate an attitude, a disposition of questioning, where the students are going to feel that they should take risks, that what they're going to get is going to be, to a certain extent, a voyage into the unknown where they are charting the course as much as the professor.
How do we equip
Maya Rao, a respected theatre artist, teaches at Shivnadar University. We spoke to her when she had just joined a year and a half ago.
Came up this offer of joining the Shivnadar University, and to be honest, for a while I kept it at bay because there's all this debate about the private, the public. I had a series of conversations with people in the university, and then it started feeling like a good idea. I got a good sense about the university for two reasons. One, that they were saying, you're not coming here only as teacher to design and teach. We are very interested in your own practice and who you are and where you want to take that practice into your own research and continue with it, and how that will feed into the academic program.
Madhvi Menon is professor of English at Ashoka University.
If you want to do a PhD, inevitably the advice was you should go abroad, so I did. But I always wanted to come back and never found a university that I thought was intellectually exciting enough for me. And if it was intellectually exciting enough, as I thought, say, Delhi University was for a long time, it was not financially feasible. And I'm only going to sort of compare it with Delhi University since it's the only one I know a little bit of. But one of the things that seems to be running right through is the randomness, the arbitrariness with which, say, the syllabus changes. What you actually do is sort of build this bulky, bulging system over which no one, in fact, has control. You have to insist that your professors are professionals. And then you have to trust them to actually go forward with their profession, i.e. develop their own curriculum, conduct their classes, innovate pedagogically, and actually teach students in the way that they want to. If you are saying we are hiring you as an individual, but you can only exist as a cog in a machine teaching a syllabus that someone else has devised for you, you're actually not hiring an individual at all.
The mood is dynamic, but these universities are still very new. Their real test lies in the years ahead. Will they be able to provide the full funding to meet the mandate they promise? And how will they compare to public institutions like Delhi University? We take some of these questions to Dipankar Gupta, an eminent sociologist who now heads the Center for Public Affairs and Critical Theory at SNU.
The more the merrier. The more universities we have of quality, it'll be really good. But one has to be a little careful on this matter. Unlike private hospitals or private schools, which do rather well simply because the government hospitals and schools have collapsed, it's not quite the same way for private universities, simply because there are still many state-run institutions which are of a pretty high caliber. Private universities to do better than public universities is primarily in the field of research. The more funds they provide, the more encouragement they give, the better will be the private universities, and then that might force public universities to, also spend more money on research.